Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we begin today Daf Mem Tes, the last Daf of the Masechta, and also the last Perek of the Masechta, the eighth Perek of Masechta Shavuos. Okay, so this Mishnah will be speaking about the four different Shomrim, a person that is guarding something for someone, and there are four different categories that have different levels of responsibility in paying for any loss or damage that happens to it. And the main reason the Mishnah brings these four categories, really the discussion of these four Shomrim is in Masechta Bava Metzia. Here, the Mishnah is bringing it up in relation to the carbon that a person would have to bring if he swears falsely about what happened to these items or any object that he has in his possession. That's the main relevance of the point that the Mishnah wants to make over here. But the Mishnah opens with first explaining what is the halachas of the levels of responsibility of these four shomrim. And then based on that, the Mishnah will explain if the person swears falsely regarding what happened, when he will be chayav a carbon. Zaktei Mishnah, Arba shomrim hein. There are four different categories of the shomrim. Shomer chinam, the one that is the shomer and he's not being paid for guarding this object. V'hashayil, then there's the one that is borrowing something, that also has the responsibility to take care of it, but he is borrowing to use it. Neis sachar, the one that is getting paid for guarding this object. And v'haseicher, and the renter. Now what's the difference in the levels of responsibility? Shomer chinam nishba ala kol. The shomer chinam, he's not getting paid for doing this, so the only thing he's responsible for is a pshia. If he was negligent, and therefore it got lost or broken, then he has to pay. But otherwise, the shomer chinam can swear about any other thing that happened to it, that's what happened, and it'll be pater. V'hashayil, on the other end, on the other extreme, is the one that borrows, mishalem esakol, because he's borrowing it, and he's using it for his own benefit, so he has the highest level of responsibility. He has to pay for anything that happens to it, including for an einus. Whatever happens, he's responsible. There are certain things that he's exempt, but in general, the shoyl is responsible for everything. Neis sachar v'haseicher, the one that is being paid to be a shomer or a renter, so they have the same halacha. Nishbaen ala shvura vala shvuya vala mesa. So if the animal or the object broke, or shvura in the pasuk actually means that it was attacked by, let's say he has animals that they were attacked by a wolf and so on. Or vala shvuya, or got trapped, or vala mesa, it died. These are three examples of something that's a einus, it's out of his control. So he has to, for this, he can swear that this happened and it'll be pater, or mishalmen esa aveda v'sagneva. But if it gets lost, or it gets stolen, which is also something which is not a negligence, but it's not an absolute einus, it's something that the person could have prevented if he would have been extra careful. For this, the shomer sachar and the seicher will be responsible. Okay, so those are the four categories. Now, why is the Mishnah bringing this? To explain the halachas of a person that swears falsely regarding what happened. Now, the concept that the rest of the Mishnah is based on, as the Mishnah itself will explain at the end, is if a person swears falsely about what happened, when will he be chayav a carbon for swearing falsely about this? If what really happened is something that he is responsible for, and he would have to pay, and he's swearing falsely to try to pater himself. So because he tried to steal money, it's tried to pater himself through this shvua, and then when he comes and he admits that he lied, he has to bring a carbon, and he has to also pay an extra fifth, more than the principal of what he tried to steal. Okay, so therefore the Mishnah will show, in certain cases, if he swore falsely, it's going to be pater, because him swearing falsely would not have gained him anything. So first, the Mishnah brings a few different examples regarding the shomer chinam, the shomer that does not get paid for his shmirah. Zak the Mishnah, Amal shomer chinam, the owner says to this shomer chinam, Hey Chan Shayri, what happened to my ox that I gave you? Amaloi, and he answers and says, Mace, an einus happened, it just died. Now, what's the truth? What really happened? And what really happened is, it didn't die. It either got attacked, or it was trapped, or nignav, or avad, it was stolen, or it was lost. So in all these cases, he would have been pater either way. Even though he lied, he said that it died and it didn't die, but what actually did happen to it, he would be potter either way. Or another example, same exact point. Nishba. This person comes and says that it was attacked, and therefore it was broken or attacked. And what really happened? But really what happened is it died, or nishba, or it was trapped or captured, or niknav, or it got stolen, or avad, or it was lost. Or a third example, what the Shomer Chinuch claimed was nishba. It was trapped. And what really happened? What really happened is either it died, or it was attacked, or it was stolen, or it was lost. Or nignav. He claims that it was stolen. And what really happened is it really either died, or was attacked, or it was captured, or lost. Or the last example is avad. He claims that it was got lost. And what really happened is it either died, or was attacked, or captured, or stolen. So in all these cases, if mashbi'acho ani, now the owner comes and says to the shomer that's claiming this, swear to me that this is what happened. And v'amar amen, and responds amen, as we learned earlier in the Masechta, when you respond amen to a shvuah, it's like you're swearing yourself. So even though he swore falsely, it turns out that what he claimed happened did not happen. Potter. He'll be potter. Why? Because when we find out what actually happened, actually happened, he's anyways potter. We're speaking about a Shomer Chinuch that's only responsible for negligence. And in this case, he wasn't negligent. Whatever ended up happening is not what he claimed happened, but he wasn't negligent. So since he would have anyways been potter, the shvuah that he swore falsely, he would gain nothing with this. So therefore, he's going to be potter.
What if
Yeah.
Why do you have to tell him to swear on somebody's potter anyways? Tell him that you didn't do pshia.
But
you didn't do pshia.
He comes and claims that something happened which is potter. The owner doesn't know if that's the case. The owner thinks maybe he was a pisheya. So he says to him, swear to me that you were not a pisheya. You claimed that it was lost or stolen or so on. Swear to me that you were not a pisheya. And then it turns out that his shvuah was false, but it still remains true that he was not a pisheya. So since he would have been potter anyways, he does not bring any carbon or pay a chaimish or pay an extra fifth for this. Okay, now the Mishnah goes on. Also, another example regarding the Shomer Chinuch. The owner of this shayr that gave it to this shomer says, "Heichen shayri, what happened to my ox?" Amaloi, the shomer responds and says, "Eini yidei matasach. I don't know what you're talking about. You never gave me your ox to guard for you." Vahu. Now, what actually did end up happening? He did give him the ox. Vahu shemeis. Now, this ox that he gave him died, nishbar, or was captured, or was attacked, nishbar, or was captured, nignav, avad, or stolen or lost. Which means that either way he would be potter. He is the shomer, but what happened to it was not a negligence. And then he says, "Mashbiachani, swear to me that you never got this." V'ama amen, and he says amen that I don't know what you're talking about. I never got this, but potter. Even though he lied, is going to be potter because again he wouldn't gain anything with this shvuah because either way, when we see what ended up happening, he's potter. A third example for the Shomer Chinuch, if the owner says to him, "Heichen shari, what happened to my ox?" Amaloi, and the shomer answers, "Avad, it got lost." Mashbiyachani. So the owner says, "Swear to me that it got lost, and you're potter." V'amar amen, and he answers amen that it is true that it got lost. But now here, what happened is va'edim me'idim ma'isai. Witnesses come and testify about this shomer she'achlai, that he stole it himself, that he slaughtered and ate this animal himself. In such a case, he swore falsely that it got lost and he's not responsible, and it turns out that he stole it himself. Mishalem es hakeren. In this case, he's going to have to pay the keren, which means what it is that he stole. Now, over here, he only pays a keren, but he does not have to bring any carbon. And the reason is you only bring a carbon when the person himself confesses and admits that he lied about it. That's the case when you pay the keren and a chaimish, an added fifth, and a carbon. But in this case, he didn't confess. Adam came and testified that he lied about this. That's one point. Another point, Rashi says, he only pays keren, the principal, but not like a ganav that usually pays kefil. And here this person stole it. The reason why you do not pay kefil is because it's learned from a pasuk that if he would have claimed that it got stolen, and he actually stole it himself, he would have to pay double. But here, he lied and claimed that it got lost. In such a case, there's a drasha from the pasuk that you don't pay double, you only pay the keren, the principal of what he tried to steal. Now, another case, regarding this case that we're talking about, but if Haide Me'atzmai, if not, Adam came and testified that he lied, but he then admitted himself that he swore falsely, here's where the halacha is, Mishalim, Keren, V'chaimish, that he has to pay the principal, and an added fifth, Ve'asham, and here he brings the carbon asham, because he swore falsely, trying to pater himself, and he then admitted, he confessed, that's when there's a chaimish and a asham. Another case, says the Mishnah, Heichan Shairi, where the owner says to the Shaimechinam, what happened to my ox? V'amalai, and the Shaimechinam responds and says, Nignav, it got stolen. So here, we'll see, he's actually stole it himself, but his claim was that it got stolen. Mashbiyachari, and the owner says, swear to me that I got stolen, v'amar amen, and he says amen to this shvuah. Now Adam come and testify that he's the one that stole it, and in such a case, mishalim tashlume kefil. Here, he's included in the halacha of every ganev that has to pay double, because he claimed that it got stolen. This is one of the cases where you learn from the pasuk that now, if we find that the Adam say that he stole it, he has to pay double. However, if he admits himself, not through Adam, so in such a case he doesn't pay kefil. The halacha regarding every knas is, whenever you made it yourself, you don't pay knas, so he doesn't pay that kefil. But what's the halacha? Mishalim keren, he pays the principal, the chaimish, and the added fifth, the asham, and the carbon asham. Okay, now the Mishnah goes down to speak about a case which is not a shomer, b'chlal, a person that's a ganev. Amala echad b'shuk. The owner comes and says to somebody in the street, Heichon shayri sheganafta, where's my ox that you stole it from me? And who Aimer, and this person says, Lo ganafti, I never stole it from you. But now now he brings witnesses to testify that this person stole his ox. Mishalim tashlume kefil. So this is the ganev that has to pay double. Tavachu mocha, and if he not only stole it, but he also slaughtered it or sold it, in such a case, mishalim tashlume arba v'chamisha. So then he has to pay, as the pasuk says, 4 or 5 times as much for what it is that he stole and slaughtered or sold. Depends what kind of animal it is. He'll have to pay 4 or 5 times as much. This is when Adam testified that he stole it, or then after stealing it also sold it or slaughtered it. However, this Ganev sees, after he denied that I ever stole it, now he sees that there are Adam that are about to come and testify that he did steal it. And Omar, he admits and says, Ganafti, I stole it. But then he says, but I did not slaughter it and I did not sell it. And the truth is he did. He stole it and then he slaughtered it or he sold it. In such a case, he will only have to pay for the principle of what he stole. So Rashi says that there's 2 chidushim over here, what the Mishnah is saying. Chidush number 1 is, this rule that if you admit, you don't have to pay the penalty. It's even in a case where the person is not just sincerely admitting. He's admitting because he sees he's already in trouble. Adam are about to come and testify that he stole it. So he realizes, I have no choice, I better admit. Even then, when he admits before the Adam testify, he'll be potter of paying the penalty. The second chiddush here is, once he admits, now he won't have to pay for the tvicha and the mechira, for slaughtering it or selling it, even if he did not admit to that. Because the moment he admits, he doesn't have to pay for the kefil. And once you don't pay kefil, you don't pay dalet v'hei, because the dalet v'hei is part of the payment of the kefil. If you're not paying for the kefil, then you would only be paying 3 or 4 times as much as what you stole. And the pasuk, the Gemara learns out from the pasuk that you only pay 4 or 5 times as much, not 3 or 4. And therefore, in such a case, when he's not paying kefil, he does not pay dalet v'hei either. Over here, in this case, we're not talking about any shvuah. By the case of a shomer, over there, he's only chayav to pay kefil if he denied and he swore falsely. Regarding a regular ganev, he pays double without swearing falsely, just for the gneva itself. If Adam come and testify that he stole it, he's chayav without swearing falsely.
No.
Okay, the Mishnah goes on now to the other case we spoke about, a person that borrows. The owner says to the borrower, Hey Chan Shayri, what happened to my ox? And the borrower answers, Mace, it died. Okay, so if it died, that's an einus that he's actually responsible for. He's chayiv, because as we learned in the beginning, a shayil is responsible to pay for even an einus. But that's not what really happened. It was either attacked or it got captured. Or it was stolen or lost. Which means that either way, he would be responsible. So he didn't try to pater himself by what he said. Or again, the Mishnah goes through all the cases here, and it's the same point. Nishbar, he claimed that it was attacked, but so he would be chayiv anyways. Or he claimed nishbar, that it was captured. And what really happened is it died, or it got attacked, or it was stolen or lost. Nignav, he claimed that it got lost. And what really happened? Shemeis nishbar avad. Or the last case, avad, he claims it was lost. And shemeis nishbar nignav. So since in all these cases, he would either way be chayiv. And so therefore, even if the owner now says, Mashbiyachani, I want you to swear that this is what happened, Va'ama Amen, and he swore to this, Pater. He'll be Pater, because he's swearing that this is what happened, and he would have been chayiv anyways. So this is similar to what we learned before in the Mishnah regarding the Shomei Chinam. The only difference is, by the Shomei Chinam, he would have been Pater anyways. Here the case is that he's swearing falsely for something that he would have been chayiv anyways. Another case regarding the Shoyel, Heichan Shoyri. The owner asks the borrower, what happened to my ox that you borrowed? Omaloi, and he responds, Any day I'm at the sach. I don't know what you're talking about. And what really happened? And really, it turns out that he did borrow it, but what happened was it died or got attacked or broken or nishba nignav, all these cases. Mashbiyachani, and the owner says, swear to me that you never borrowed this from me. And he says, Amen to this chayev. So in this case, he will be chayev, because with what he swore falsely, he was trying to pater himself, to say that he never borrowed it. Okay, the last category that the Mishnah addresses is the middle case of the Shemei Sachar, or the Mishnah calls it a Naisa Sachar, and the Seicher, the renter. So Amal a Naisa Sachar v'Seicher, the owner says to the one that's a Shemer, he's being paid for this, or the renter, Hey Chan Shady, what happened to my ox? Amalei, so the Shemei Sachar responds and says, Meis, Einus happened, it died. Which means that he's saying that what happened was an Einus that he's potter for. What really happened? V'hu shenishbar einishbar. And what really happened is it got attacked or it got captured. In both of these cases, he will be potter anyways, because it's all an Einus. Or he claimed nishbar, that it was attacked. V'hu shemeis einishbar. And what really happened is it died or it got captured. Or nishbar, he claimed that it was captured, and what really happened is that it died or it was attacked. So in these cases that the Mishnah mentions here, he swore falsely, but he's going to be pater. Why? Because either way, he would be pater to pay, because it turns out an einus did happen, not the einus that he said, but an einus happened. Now another example, the Mishnah continues regarding the Shomer Sachar. Nignav, he comes and claims that it got stolen. But v'husha avad, what really happened is it was lost. Or avad, he claims that it was lost, v'husha nignav. But really what happened was that it got stolen. And the owner says, Mashbiyachani, swear that what you claim is what happened. V'amar amen, and responds, amen. So pater, he'll be pater, because in the second category that we just read, he would have been chayiv anyways. He's admitting, he's claiming that it got stolen, but really it got lost. He would have been chayiv anyways. So he didn't try to pater himself. However, if the case over here is that this Shemei Sachar claims and says, Meis, Einishbar, either he claims that it died, or it got attacked, or it got captured, and those are Einsim, that he would be pater for, and that's what he's claiming to pater himself, and for who and what really happened, Shenigna v'yavad, it got stolen or lost, and which is something that he would be chayiv for. And now the owner says, Mashbiyachah, and he swear that there was an Einus, and v'amar amen, and he says amen to this, chayiv. So in such a case, he will be chayiv because he tried to pater himself.
Chayiv for what?
Chayiv to bring a carbon,
okay,
and the added fifth. The Gemara will actually clarify that. Here the Mishnah doesn't clearly say that, but yes, he's chayiv to bring the carbon and the chaimish. Now, avad nignav, if this Shemei Sachar, this paid Shomer, comes and says that it got lost or it got stolen, which means he's basically admitting that what happened to it, I'm chayiv to pay. And v'hu, what really happened? Shemei, Nishba, really what happened was either it died, or it was attacked, or it was captured, which means that it's an einus and he's pater. And the owner says, Mashbiyachah, and he swear that what you say is true, that it got stolen or lost, and you're responsible. And he admitted that he's responsible. V'amar amen, and he says amen to this, but now it turns out that he actually should have been pater. So then obviously potter. He'll be potter from being a carbon or a chaimish because he actually admitted that he's chayiv. So the Mishnah concludes, Zeh klal, here is the rule of all these halachas we just learned in the Mishnah. Kol hamishane michayva l'chayva, if someone lies and swears falsely, but what he claimed, he would have been chayiv anyways, and it turns out that he lied and he was also chayiv. Or umiptor leptor, he swore falsely that he's potter, but then it turns out what happened, he's anyways potter. Umiptor l'chayva, or if the person is swearing falsely, and it turns out that he was swearing falsely that he's chayiv, and it turns out that really he was potter. Again? No, umiptor l'chayva means that this person swears that he was chayiv, and really he was potter. Okay, so he admitted that he's chayiv, like the last case we had over here, when he admitted that it was gneva v'aved, then he's chayiv, but really he was potter. He should have been potter. So in such a case, he didn't try to potter himself. So in all these cases, potter, he'll be potter from bringing a carbon or paying the added fifth. However, if it's michayva l'ptur, if though it's a case where he should have been chayiv, but he swore falsely and he tried to pater himself chayiv, then he'll be chayiv and he'll be chayiv to bring the carbon and a chaimish. Again, the Mishnah says, Zeh klal, that the rule here is kol nishbal hakal alatzmai, one that's swearing to be lenient, to pater himself chayiv, then he'll be chayiv if he swore falsely, and lahachmar alatzmai, if he swore to be stringent on himself, to be mechayiv himself in a case that he would have been potter, then he would be potter. There are some Rishonim that say that you're not guided both of these zeh klals because it seems to just be repeating the same zeh klal, the same rule. Okay, this is the Mishnah. Now, the Gemara will explain some of the details of this Mishnah. Most of this Mishnah is just a repetition of the same point, but the Gemara will explain some things over here. The beginning of the Mishnah is Man Tana Arba Shemrim. The Mishnah begins with the fact that there are 4 Shemrim. Who is the Tana that there are 4 Shemrim? Omer Rav Nachman, Omer Rabbi Baravue, Rab Meir. So Rav Nachman says that this is Rab Meir. Amalei Rav Nachman, so Rav says to Rav Nachman, this is Rab Meir's opinion. Miya Katana the Leslie Arba Shemrim. Is there any Tana that holds that there are no 4 Shemrim? There's 4. There's a Shemer that's either doing it for free or being paid, or the borrower and the renter. Everybody agrees that the fact is that there's 4 Shemrim. Amalei, so the Gemara explains, this is what the question was. Man Tana de Omar, who is the Tana that says, like it says in our Mishnah, that Seicher is Kenaisa Sachar Dami, that the renter has the same halacha like the paid Shemer. That's what the question here was. And on this, Rav Nachman answered, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Baravua, Rab Meiri, that this is Rab Meir's opinion that the halacha of the renter is the same like the Shemer Sachar. So the Gemara asks, but V'ha Rab Meir, we actually have it that Rab Meir's opinion is the opposite. Because the Tanan, or the Tanya we learned in the Mishnah, or in a Braisa where it says, Seicher Keitzad Mishalim, a renter, what is his status of payment? Regarding the other 3 Shemrim, the Shemer Chinam, the Shemer Sachar, and the Shayil, the Gemara learns out from the words in the Pasuk clearly what it is that he pays. But by the Seicher, it doesn't say in the Pasuk clearly what it is that he pays. It says just, Im Sacharu Bab B'schari, but it doesn't say. So on this is a machlekes. Rab Meir Aimer Keshem Chinam. Rab Meir says a renter pays like a Shemer Chinam. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Kenois Sachar. Rabbi Yehuda says that the renter has a halacha like a paid shemer. So here we see clearly that Rabbi Meir is the one that says that the seicher is like a shemer chinam. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Baravue Ipchet Tani. Rabbi Baravue had the names in this brayso the opposite. And therefore, he said that Rabbi Meir is the one that says that it's like a shemer sachar. The Gemara asks, Hani Arba Havo? Are these 4 different categories of shemrim? Shloish Havo. It's really 3, because the level of responsibility and payment is only 3. If the Shemer Sachar is like the Seicher, or the Seicher rather is like the Shemer Sachar. Amar Rav Nachman Vayitzchak, so Rav Nachman Vayitzchak explains, Arba Shemrim. There are 4 different Shemrim, but V'dineyan Shloisha, the halachas of their level of responsibility is only 3, but there are 4 different categories of Shemrim. That is the pshat here in the Mishnah. That's why on one hand it says that it's a bar shemrim, but on the other hand, the seicher has the same halacha as the shemer sachar. This piece of the Gemara here, the Rebbe explained this in the Sicha Barichas Gedola in Chelik Lamed Aleph, Parshas Mishpatim. What the Gemara here means with this discussion about the shemrim, and this argument between Rab Meir and Rab Yehuda, what's the status of a renter? Is a renter like a shomer chinam or like a shomer sachar? The svara to say that this renter is like a shomer chinam is because he is guarding this this ox that he rented, but he's not getting paid for this at all. He's a renter, he's using it, but he's not. He's paying for the fact that he's using it. And the fact that he has to guard it while he has it in his possession, for that he's not being paid at all. Therefore, he's a shomer chinam. That's very simple to understand. What's the explanation for the opinion that says that he's a shomer sachar? Why should he be like a shomer sachar if he's not being paid for guarding it? So the Rebbe brings from what Rashi says in the Gemara in Bab Metzia, because this person should be called a shoyel. Because what's a shoyel? A shoyel is a person that borrows something for his own benefit, for his own use. And this person as well is taking it, he's a renter, he's taking it for his own use. So really, you should be like a shoyel. Elamai, the reason why he's not chayiv, even on an einus like a borrower, is because he's not like the borrower that's not paying for this, that just borrows it for free. He's paying for it. Because he's paying for it, so therefore he's not responsible as much as the borrower. But that's the pshat that he's really in a similar category to a shoyel. But on the other hand, he's not exactly like a shoyel because he pays for it, so therefore his responsibility is like the shomer sachar. Based on this, the Rebbe explains that's why the Mishnah says that it's really 4 shomrim. Because even if the halachas that applies are only 3, but you can see that the seicher is something in between. He's not the shoyel, according to this opinion. He's not the shoyel, but at the same time, he's not the shomer sachar. In the nature of what he's doing, he's similar to the shoyel because he's like the one that's borrowing. He's taking it to use for himself. But on the other hand, he's paying for it, so he's not responsible as much. That's a pshat in the Mishnah. Then the Rebbe explains there in the Sikha, very geschmack in Barichas, how these 4 shomrim relates also to the 4 different attitudes that a person could have in his avodah and doing Torah mitzvahs in this world. Every yid in this world is a shomer. He's a shomer. The yidden are the guardian of the world. La'avdal l'shamra. The Eibusher brings the yidden into the world to do Torah mitzvahs in order to give the world the shmira that it needs to be the place that it has to be. But in this attitude that a yid has to do the shmira for the world, a person can have different attitudes. There's one person that's like the shomer chinam. He's doing it completely for the Eibusher's sake. He doesn't want any schar, he doesn't want any personal benefit. Then you have the person that's on the completely opposite end of the spectrum. Everything he does in this world, every mitzvah he does, he's thinking about himself. What anah could I get out of this? It's all for himself. And then you have the categories in between. The shomer sachar and the seicher. The Rebbe explains Barichas all the details about it. Very geschmack the same. But this is the point, that this concept that the Mishnah is speaking about over here refers to different attitudes a yid could have in his aveda of Torah mitzvahs in this world. Okay, let's continue. So it said in the Mishnah, Amar l'shomer chinam chulu, heichan sheri chulu, Amar l'echad b'shuk chulu, Amar l'shomer chulu. And then it said further, another case, heichan sheri, Amar loi, eni yidei ma tasach chulu. Okay, so now the Mishnah pointed out that in many of these cases, he'll be pater from swearing falsely, to bring a carbon for this and to pay the 5th for this. And the reason is because he never tried to pater himself. Even based on what he said, he lied, but he would have been pater anyways, or he would have been chayiv anyways. So Amar Rav says regarding all these cases where it says that he's pater for the carbon and the chaimish, the kulam pturim mishvus shaymer. They're pater for bringing the carbon for this, that he was a shaymer, that he swore falsely because he didn't try to pater himself. But v'chayavim mishom shvus bitoy. There's something else that he still would be chayiv for. And that is what we learned earlier in the Masechta, a Shavuos bitui, when a person utters and he swears falsely about something that happened in the past. So for this itself, he's also chayiv. It's a different chiyuv, not the chiyuv of the asham and the chaimish that we're speaking about here by the shayimrim, but for Shavuos bitui. And he'll be chayiv a carbon for that as well. It's a different carbon. As you learned earlier in the Masechta, it's a carbon, oilu v'yated, if there was some kind of shegig involved over here. It has to be a shegig Rashi brings from what we learned earlier in the Masechta. If there was a shegig that he forgot about the fact that you bring a carbon for this, so he'll be chayiv for the Shavuos bitui. Shmuel Lama, but Shmuel says, Af peturim mishom Shavuos bitui. This person will be completely pater. He's pater of the asham of Shavuos hapikadaim. He's pater even of Shavuos bitui as well. There's no chiyuv at all here. So the Gemara explains what's the basis of their machlokes is Shmuel Savar. Shmuel's opinion is that in this case, the concept of Shavuos bitui, when one lied, he swore falsely and he lied, that doesn't apply here. Because lese b'lahaba. This is a kind of shvuah that the person cannot have lied about this regarding the future. What is this based on? So we learned this earlier in the Masechta. This is based on the pasuk. When the pasuk speaks about Shavuos bitui, when one lied in a shvuah, what's the term the pasuk uses? Lahara oila hativ. which the pasuk uses a future term, that he's lying about the future. So from this, Shmuel says we understand, even if it's true that if a person lies about something that happened in the past, that he would be chayiv, but if it's only if what he lied about is something that it would have been possible also to lie about this regarding the future. For example, achalti, he says I did not eat. He could lie about this regarding the future as well. When he says I will eat and he doesn't end up eating, because the pasuk speaks about the future, it has to be something which is possible to be applied to the future, which does not apply in this case. If a person over here lies and says this ox that you gave me died, he can't lie about this in the future and say it will die. It doesn't apply. He doesn't know that. That's not possible. So therefore, in this case, he's not chayiv for shuas bitui. However, Rav's opinion is isei bala v'hein. What we learn from the pasuk lahara elahetiv is not that it has to be something which is possible to apply for the future. It has to be something where, like the pasuk says, lahara elahetiv, the negative and the positive is applicable. And over here as well, when he says it did die, he could have sworn that it did not die. He could have sworn that it is something else. So the lav and hein applies over here, and therefore this is a shavuos bittoy that he would be chayiv for. Now the Gemara asks us this machlokes here is the same machlokes that was brought earlier in the Masechta. Exact same machlokes with the same logic they spoke about already earlier. The itma, as we learned earlier in the Masechta. The following case. If a person swears falsely and says, not about himself, he says that another person, he threw a pebble into the water. Or he swears about that person that he did not throw the pebble into the water. So Rav says chayiv. For swearing falsely regarding this, he would be chayiv. Shmuel says he's potter. And what's the explanation? The same point. Rav says he's chayiv because the isa belav v'hein. What we learn from the pasuk lahara lehetiv is that it has to be a shvua that could be in the negative or in the positive, and that's possible in this case. So he's chayiv. Shmuel says what we learn from the pasuk is potter. The reason he's potter is because the lesa b'lahaba. This is a kind of shvua that he cannot say this regarding the future, because he could say falsely about the past that person threw this pebble into the water, but regarding the future, he can't say that person will throw it into the water. It's not him. It has nothing to do with him. So the question is, why are we bringing the same argument here again? And since the Gemara Tzricha, it's necessary to say the argument regarding the case that we're speaking about over here, a shaymer that's swearing falsely in the Bezdin, and the reason is the iyash minam baha, because if we would only bring this case that we're bringing over here, when a person swears himself regarding what someone else did, I would say baha ka'amar Rav. It's only in that case that Rav says that this person will be chayiv because mishum de'menafsheikum mishtaba. He's swearing himself. He's swearing himself about something that someone else did. In that case, Rav says he's chayiv. Abu Bahach, the Beit Dinah. Here we're speaking about a shaymer that he's swearing. Why? Because the Bezdin is telling him he has to swear about what happened here. The Beit Dinah mishtabile. He's swearing because Bezdin is telling him to swear. In this case, there would be a reason to say that he agrees to Shmuel, that in this case, when he swears falsely, but he didn't try to save himself any money, that he would be potter even for the Shavuos bitui as well. And why is this? So here the Gemara introduces a new svara. What's the svara? Rab Ami. As Rab Ami said, the Omer Rab Ami said, Kol Shvuah, anytime a person is swearing, Shahadayanim Ashpiyim Ma'isa, where he's not swearing on his own initiative, but he has to swear because he's in a court case, and the Bezdin is saying to him that you must swear about this. Ein chayaven aleh mishum shavuos bitui. So in such a case, even if he swore falsely and he didn't try to patent himself, he's not chayiv for swearing falsely for this. And the Gemara will soon bring the source in the pasuk for this. So here there's a new svara. In our case, it could be that Rav, even if he doesn't agree to the logic of Shmuel, but there's a new idea. Maybe he holds like what Rab Ami says, that when the person is not swearing himself, but Bezdin makes him swear, he would be potter for Shavuos bitui. So therefore, it has to say that Rav disagrees with Rab Ami, and in this case he would be chayiv. And therefore, v'iyit me baha, if I would only say the case of our Mishnah here, I would say baha ka'amar Shmuel. Maybe Shmuel said what he said here only because he holds like what Rab Ami said. Awa bahach, but by the other case that was brought earlier in the Masechta, Eimim Maidele l'Rav, maybe there he agrees to Rav Tzricha. Therefore, it's necessary to say both cases. Now here the Gemara brings the source of this concept that Rab Ami said. Gufa, here's the halach of Rab Ami. Rab Ami said, Kol Shvuah. anytime a person swears falsely, but he didn't swear stam on his own initiative. It was in a court case, and Bezdin was forcing him to swear. So here, the halacha of a person swearing falsely, when he just utters a lie, and he did not try to patent himself of anything, so it's just a Shavuos bitui, but that does not apply here. Why? Shenema, because by the Shavuos bitui, the pasuk says, Oy nefesh, a person, kisishava levate b'svasayim, he will swear to utter with his lips. Now, what does the word ki mean? So here, the Gemara says, according to Rav Ami, the word ki means if. If he will swear. Which means that it was a kind of shvuah that was his choice. Nobody was forcing him to swear. It wasn't in a bezdin. How do we see this? As Reish Lakish says, the Amr Reish Lakish, ki mishtamish ba'arba l'shainis. The word ki in the Torah could be translated in 4 different ways. It could be i, which means if, and that's how we're translating it here, according to Rav Ami. It could be dilma, perhaps. Ella, it could mean however, and it could be daha. Daha would mean because, right? Because he is over here. In our case, how does Rav Ami translate the word ki? If he's swearing, which means that we're talking about a shvuah, not in the bezdin. Person chooses to swear on his own. Therefore, it says ki sishava if he swears, and therefore Rav Ami says if he swears in the bezdin, it'll be potter. However, according to Rav, even in this case, it'll be chayiv because the word ki means because he's swearing, which means he's forced to swear in the bezdin, and he'll still be chayiv. Okay, now going back to the point that was spoken about before, the Gemara brings another Amayra that said a statement about this. Rabbi Laza says, Kulan Peturim Mishvua Shaimrim, all cases that we mentioned where the person swore falsly and he did not try to pater himself, so he's pater for the carbon that you bring by the Shavuos Shaimrim. But V'chayav Mishum Shavuos Bitui. Like Rav's opinion, you are chayiv for Shavuos Bitui. Chutz Mi'eni Yedei Amat Asach, in the examples of the Mishnah, where the Shaimer said, I don't know what you're talking about, the Shoyel, by the case of the Shoyel, and v'gneve v'aveda the neisesachar v'shebeseicher, or in the case where it turns out that the person that got stolen or got lost, and it's a shemesachar or the seicher, and he is responsible for it. Shehu chayiv. Here he will be chayiv not for shuas bitoy. He'll be chayiv for shuas apikadon because he tried to pater himself shayre kafri moment, since he denies the money that he really owed. It's really not only these cases that he'll be chayiv. The other Mishnah mentioned other cases by Shrei Mechinim that'll be chayiv as well. The Gemara is pointing out these cases because the Mishnah only said the word chayiv and it didn't say what he would be chayiv. So therefore, Rabbi Loz is saying that in these cases he'll be chayiv for the shuas apikadon to bring a carbon and the added chaimish. Hadran alach arba shaimrim uslikala mesechta shvuos. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Okay. The Siyum today is being sponsored by our dear member of the share, Rab Kalman, Nishmas, Rab Meir, Beirach Ben Leib. Please make a bracha and say l'chaim. Just to add one word that the Rebbe said on the Masechta, when it came before Shavuos, the Rebbe usually made a hadran on Masechta Saita, because that's the minhag to learn Saita during the Sviras Aimer. But one year, the Rebbe mentioned also that there is a minhag to learn Masechta Shavuos, as you see, has 49 blot during Sviras Aimer. So the Rebbe Bekitza said a vart about the seam of the Masechta. The Rebbe didn't really mamish make a full seam on the Masechta, but the Rebbe said a vart that Masechta Shavuos, we see in the Masechta, Shavuos means a person that takes an oath. And there's 2 opposite things that were mentioned in the Masechta. One is the Mushba v'oimid mahar Sinai, which was mentioned in the Masechta a few times, that Bechlal Teiro Mitzvahs is something that you didn't accept upon themselves with an oath. And that's our responsibility, Bechlal, for the greatest and holiest things of doing a mitzvah. On the other hand, the last 10 blot of the Masechta speaks about Shavuos that all relates to money matters. Shavuah is sort of this tool of the Torah that's used in a situation where you have somebody that's a liar, and the Torah wants to make sure that a person shouldn't lie. It uses Shavuah regarding this kind of situation, which shows you that the inyan of a Shavuah is a very powerful thing. Shavuah, on one hand, is bringing from the highest source, from the deepest powers. It says in Chassidus that Shavuah also means, could be, if you read it with a sin, it means soiva, to satisfy, to, like mashbiya maiseh, to hit tzaddik. You give a person a very strong kayach to do the Torah mitzvahs, but a Shavuah could also be used when a person falls very low, and just for money, he's ready to lie. The Shavuah is the mechanism of the Torah to lift him up and schlep him out of that situation as well. Those are the 2 opposite things that come together that you see here in this Masechta. Adon Allah Masechta Shavuos,